It's Zane. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so happy you're here. By the time his mom slid me that note, I already knew I was in trouble. Not the kind of trouble you joke about later. The kind that makes your chest feel tight and your thoughts spin. The kind you never admit to your best friend. My name is Ryan. I am 23, fresh out of college with a mechanical engineering degree that still feels unreal. For 4 years I lived in a tiny off-campus apartment in Ohio, living on instant noodles, cold pizza, and cheap coffee. My life was classes, late nights, and trying not to fail physics. The one thing that always stayed the same was my best friend, Eric. We met freshman year in a physics class that almost destroyed both of us. He is loud, funny, and somehow makes friends with everyone. Bartenders, professors, janitors, neighbors, it does not matter. He walks into a room, and it feels like he belongs there. He is the one who showed up at 2 a.m. with a pizza when I thought I was done with everything. The one who dragged me outside when I had spent 3 days in the library. The brother I never had. Tonight was supposed to be about us. Our joint graduation party. Me, Eric, and a couple of friends celebrating that we actually made it. We rented the back patio of a small restaurant just outside town. Wooden beams ran across the ceiling with fairy lights hanging from them. Long tables were covered with white tablecloths. A Bluetooth speaker played old pop songs that everyone knew the words to. The air smelled like grilled burgers and summer grass. People laughed, posed for pictures, and clinked glasses. I stood near the edge of the patio with a soda in my hand, pretending I was relaxed. Eric was in the middle of everything in a navy blazer, tie already loose, telling a story that had everyone laughing. He looked like a guy who knew exactly where his life was going. I felt like background noise. That was when I saw her. Tessa, his mom. She was standing by the open bar alone, a glass of white wine in her hand. She was 42, but if you saw her for the first time, you would never guess. She wore a simple black sleeveless dress that hugged her in all the right ways. Her blonde hair brushed her shoulders. The string lights made her brown eyes look warm and deep. I had known her since high school. She brought Christmas cookies to my parents' house every year. She asked me to feed her cat when she went out of town. She taught me how to tie a tie before prom, her fingers quick and sure while I stood there, a nervous 17-year-old. Back then, she was just Mrs. Larson, Eric's mom. Safe. Off limits. Tonight she did not look like just someone's mom. She looked like a woman standing all alone at the bar, a little out of place in a world that used to be hers. Eric had told me his parents divorced last year. His dad moved across the country. Tessa stayed and tried to start over. I heard it, but I never really thought about what that meant. Not until I saw her tonight. The way she stood there with a calm face and something tired in her eyes. I realized I was staring. My soda can was sweating in my hand. My heartbeat felt loud. I tried to look away. This was wrong. This was Tessa. She grounded us when we were 17 for stealing beers from her fridge. She sent me birthday cards with a $20 bill tucked inside. She cheered for both of us at every school event. I had no right to look at her like that. But my eyes kept going back. The way she lifted her glass. The shape of her smile when someone said hello. The way her shoulders relaxed when she exhaled. Something twisted in my stomach. Half guilt, half something I did not want to name. A hand smacked my shoulder. Yo, Ryan, you going to stand here all night, or actually talk to people? Eric. I jumped and forced a laugh. Not all of us are born entertainers, man. He dragged me toward a group of friends. I smiled when I was supposed to, laughed when they laughed, told a few jokes of my own, but my mind kept drifting back to the bar. At one point, I glanced over and caught her already, looking at me. Our eyes met. She did not smile. She did not wave. She just held my gaze for one long heartbeat. Then she looked away and took another sip of her wine. My chest clenched. I told myself it was nothing. Just a weird moment. One of those things you forget the next day. I tried to focus on the party, on the fact that we had finally graduated, that life was supposed to get simpler now, not more complicated. But the night kept pulling me back toward her. Later, the playlist shifted to slower, softer songs. The whole patio felt different. Fairy lights glowed like stars. People moved toward dessert. Some couples swayed gently near the edge of the patio. I stood at the dessert table, pretending to decide between a cupcake and a brownie, when I realized I was doing it again. Looking for her. She was still at the bar, her glass almost empty. She was listening to one of our old professors. Her head tilted just a little, that polite, careful smile on her face. Her posture was looser than I remembered from high school. Less strict. More human. I could not hide behind frosting and sprinkles all night. So I walked to the bar. I told myself I was just getting another soda. That if she talked to me, it would be casual. Normal. I would feel stupid for thinking anything else. She saw me before I could change my mind. "Ryan," she said, her voice warm, her mouth curving into a small smile. "Trapped by the dessert table or hiding from the crowd?" I rubbed the back of my neck. Little bit of both. "You know I am not great with big groups." "You survived worse," she teased. "Like the day I caught you and Eric stealing my beer." I groaned. "I was hoping you forgot about that." "Never." She took a sip of wine, her eyes running over my face and down to my tie. "You look good. You tied that yourself." I glanced down at my tie. "You taught me, remember?" Her smile softened. She leaned a little closer against the bar, her fingers tracing the stem of her glass. "I remember," she said quietly. "I remember more than you think." The noise around us faded into a dull hum. It felt like the space between us had its own gravity. I tried to keep things light. "Guess I owe you for more than Thai lessons." "Guess you do," she replied, her eyes holding mine. The silence that followed was not empty. It was heavy and charged, like the air before a storm. I knew I should step back, find Eric, throw myself into another conversation, do anything but stand there and let the ground shift under my feet. I turned a little, reaching for a soda bottle. "I should grab a drink and get out of your way." Her fingers brushed my elbow. Just a light touch, but it stopped me cold. "Ryan," she said softly, "you do not have to run off." My chest tightened. I looked at her. Her face was half shadowed by the string lights, her eyes open and searching. Before I could say anything, a folded white napkin slid across the bar toward my hand. Her fingertips lingered on it for a moment. "For later," she said. I frowned but picked it up. I did not open it right there. I just felt the thin square of paper burning against my palm. I walked away a few steps, toward the edge of the patio, under a row of fairy lights. My heart pounded as I unfolded the napkin. For small words stared back at me in her neat handwriting. "Come find me tonight." My fingers shook. The lights above me blurred. I blinked hard and flipped the napkin over, looking for some joke, some explanation. There was nothing else. Just her handwriting. Just 4 words that changed everything. I stared at those 4 words until they stopped looking like words and started looking like a dare. "Come find me tonight." My heart pounded in my ears. The napkin felt heavier than it should. I folded it, unfolded it, folded it again like that would change what it said. It did not. Someone yelled my name. "Ryan, get over here, man." Group photo. I shoved the napkin into my pocket so fast I almost tore it and turned around. Eric was waving at me from the center of the patio, his arm around 2 of our friends. The photographer was already lining everyone up. I walked over on shaky legs, squeezed between Eric and another guy from our class. Eric hooked an arm around my neck and pulled me in. "Dude, you look like you saw a ghost," he muttered. "You good?" "Yeah," I said. My voice sounded thin. "Just tired." "Stop talking and smile," the photographer called. The flash went off. Everyone laughed and cheered. I could feel the napkin against my leg like a secret only I knew. We took a few more photos. Someone made a toast. Our parents wiped their eyes. Friends talked about future plans. I said all the right words at all the right times, but my mind kept slipping back to the bar, to Tessa, to that note. "Come find me tonight." Where? Her house? Here? Was it a joke? Was I crazy for thinking she meant it the way it sounded? I knew her handwriting. I had seen it on birthday cards, on sticky notes at her house, on the little reminders she left for Eric. It was hers. When I finally got the nerve to look for her again, she was at the far end of the patio talking to one of the professors. She laughed at something he said, but her eyes drifted away from him and brushed over me for a second. No smile. No wave. Just that same steady look. My chest tightened. I grabbed a soda from the bar and took a long drink I did not need. The bubbles burned my throat. I tried to tell myself I was reading too much into this. She was older. She was my best friend's mom. She was probably just lonely on a big night. But then I remembered the way her fingers had touched my elbow. The way she said I did not have to run off. The night moved on. People started leaving. Some of our friends headed to another party across town. Eric floated from group to group, saying goodbye like a guy who was about to move to a bigger life. At some point, he ended up next to me again, his tie now completely gone, top buttons open. "Okay, man," he said, pointing toward the parking lot. We're going to Jake's in a bit. Mom's closing out the bill. You could help her if she needs anything. She likes you more than she likes me anyway. He laughed, like it was nothing. Like he had no idea what those words did to me. Sure, I said. My throat felt dry. He slung an arm around my shoulders and pulled me in for a quick half hug. Real talk though, he said, quieter. If I end up in New York soon, she'll be here on her own again. Check in on her sometimes, yeah? Grab dinner with her. You know how she acts like she's fine even when she's not. I looked at him. He was smiling, tired but happy, eyes already halfway on the future. Yeah, I said softly. I will. Good man, he said, then jogged off to say goodbye to someone else. I watched him walk away, then turned back to the patio. Most people were gone now. Staff moved around clearing plates. The music was low. The night felt softer, quieter. Tessa stood near one of the tables, stacking dishes and talking with the restaurant manager. Her black dress caught the light every time she shifted. I walked over, my heart thudding. You need help? I asked. She looked up at me, and for a second everything from the night flashed between us. The looks, the napkin, the words on it. You don't have to stay, she said. This is your night. Go have fun. I know, I said. I want to help. Her eyes searched my face for a moment. Then she nodded. All right, she said. You can take those glasses to the bar. We moved around each other, clearing tables, stacking plates, carrying things inside. It felt strange and normal at the same time. I had done this sort of thing at their house before after dinners, but now every time our shoulders brushed, every time our hands almost touched, my pulse jumped. Soon the patio was almost empty. The fairy lights hummed above us. The manager thanked Tessa and went inside, leaving us alone under the soft glow. She signed the bill and slipped the receipt into her purse. For a moment, she just stood there with her hand resting on the table, like she was working up the courage to move. Thank you for staying, she said as we walked toward the parking lot together. Her heels clicked on the stone. You always were the quiet, dependable one. I gave a weak laugh. That makes me sound boring. She looked at me, her eyes warm and serious. I don't think you're boring, Ryan, she said. We reached her car. She leaned back against the door, purse strap falling down her arm. The dark lot around us, almost empty. The restaurant lights glowed from the windows behind us. I could feel the napkin burning in my pocket. Tessa, I said, my voice low. About the note. Her eyes dropped to my pocket, then back to my face. You read it, she said. It was not a question. Yeah. I swallowed. I did. She let out a slow breath. It looked like she had been holding it all night. Then you know I meant it, she said. My heart hammered. Come find you where? I asked. Here? At home. She gave a small, almost shy smile, something I had never seen from her before. You know where I live, she said quietly. You have known for years. The meaning sank in like a weight. And if I don't? I asked. My voice shook a little. Then you don't, she said. I won't bring it up again. She opened her car door, then paused and looked back at me over her shoulder. I'll be home around 11, she said softly. Drive safe, Ryan. Then she got in, closed the door, and pulled out of the lot, her tail lights glowing red as she disappeared down the street. I stood there in the parking lot long after her car was gone, the night buzzing around me. I could have gone to Jake's party. I could have driven home, thrown the napkin away, and told myself it meant nothing. Instead, 2 hours later, just before 11, I found myself driving down a quiet street I knew too well. Neat little houses lined both sides. Fresh-cut lawns. Porch lights glowing. I had walked this block 100 times in high school with Eric. It had never felt like this. Tessa's house sat near the end of the street. 2 stories, pale siding, a small front porch. The porch light was on. Warm light glowed from the living room window. I parked across the street and sat there with my hands on the wheel, my heart racing. Every reason not to be there ran through my mind. She is older. She is your best friend's mom. This is wrong. This is stupid. Turn around. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the napkin again. Come find me tonight. I took a breath that did not feel steady, got out of the car, and shut the door quietly. The air smelled like grass and faint rain. Crickets chirped. My shoes sounded too loud on the sidewalk as I walked toward her house. At her front door, my hand hovered over the doorbell. For a second, I almost turned around. Before I could, the door opened. Tessa stood there in the doorway, framed by warm light. She was barefoot now. Her hair was down, softer around her face. The black dress was gone, replaced by a loose gray t-shirt and soft jeans. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then she stepped to the side, her voice low and even. "Come in, Ryan," she said, "if you're sure you want to." Walking into her house that night felt like stepping out of my own life. I had been in this living room 100 times with Eric. Movie nights, Super Bowl games, sleepovers where we stayed up too late and laughed too loud. I knew the couch, the rug, the photos on the wall. But now it felt different. It was quiet. No TV, no music. Just the soft hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the faint smell of vanilla from a candle on the coffee table. Tessa closed the door behind me. I heard the soft click of the lock. My heart jumped at the sound. She gave me a small, nervous smile I was not used to seeing on her. "Do you want water?" she asked. "Or coffee?" "Water is good," I said. My voice did not sound like mine. She nodded and walked into the kitchen. I stood in the entryway and looked at the family photos on the wall. Eric in a baseball uniform. Tessa and her ex-husband on a beach, younger and sunburned. Me and Eric at 16 with wet hair and stupid grins from a lake trip. Every picture was a reminder of where I was, who she was, who I was supposed to be here. What was I doing? Tessa came back with a glass of water. Her hand was steady when she held it out. Mine was not when I took it. "Sit," she said softly, nodding toward the couch. I sat at one end. She sat a couple of feet away, not close enough to touch, close enough that I could feel the space between us buzzing. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The silence was not empty. It was full of everything we did not know how to say. "I do not want you to think I do this all the time," she said finally. Her eyes were on her hands. "Bring guys over. Leave notes on napkins. That is not who I am." "I know," I said quickly. "I know you are not like that." She looked up at me. Her eyes searched my face like she was trying to see what I really thought. "Then what do you think this is?" she asked. I stared at the water in my glass. The surface shook a little in my hand. "I think you are lonely," I said slowly. "And I think I am too. And I think this scares both of us." A small, sad smile touched her mouth. "You are right," she said. "On all of it." She leaned back against the couch and let out a breath like she had been holding it for a long time. "When you were at the bar tonight," she said, "you kept looking at me. You tried to hide it, but I saw." Her voice softened. And for the first time in a long time, I did not want to look away. My chest tightened. "I have been trying not to look," I admitted. "Since after the divorce. Since you started showing up to things alone. Since you cut your hair. Since I saw you trying to act like everything was fine." My throat felt tight. "I told myself it was wrong," I said. "Because you are Eric's mom. Because I am too young. Because this is insane. But I still feel it." The words hung in the air between us. Heavy. Real. She watched me like she was reading every line on my face. "I spent 20 years being a wife and a mother," she said quietly. "I forgot what it felt like to be anything else. To have someone look at me and see more than that." Her fingers twisted the edge of a cushion. "Tonight, when you looked at me, I felt it. It scared me. And it made me feel alive." Her eyes glistened. She blinked it away. "If you still see me as just Eric's mom," she said, her voice almost a whisper, "then you should walk out that door tonight. You should pretend this never happened." My hand tightened around the glass. "And if I don't?" I asked. She took a slow breath. "Then you need to be very sure about what you want," she said. "Because once we step into this, we cannot go back to pretending." The room felt smaller. The air thicker. I thought of Eric's arm around my shoulders at the party. His words about checking in on her. His trust. Then I thought of the way Tessa looked at me right now. Not as a kid. Not as her son's friend. As a man sitting in her living room. Shaking and still choosing to stay. "I do not know where this goes," I said honestly. "I do not know if it is right on paper. I only know that I am here and that I want to see you. Not just as Eric's mom. As you." Something in her face softened, like a weight slid off her shoulders. For the first time that night, she let out a small, shaky laugh. "You always were honest," she said. "Even when you tried not to be." We sat there, the air between us buzzing. Then she shook her head a little. "I am not going to kiss you tonight," she said. My heart jumped at the word kiss. "I am not going to rush this," she went on. "I need to know you are not just caught up in the moment. I need to know you will still feel this when the party is over and the light is not so soft." "The party is already over," I said quietly. She smiled. "You know what I mean." "I do," I said. "So what do you want me to do?" She thought for a second. I want you to go home tonight, she said. I want you to think. Really think. Not about Eric. Not about what people would say. Not about our ages. I want you to think about how you feel when you are with me. Just that. My throat felt dry. And then, in the morning, she said, if you still want this, you text me. What do I say? I asked. Her eyes held mine. Tell me you are coming to meet me for coffee, she said. That is it. That is it, she said. If you do not text, I will understand. I will not bring this up again. You can still come over with Eric. We can still be what we have always been. I will not punish you for choosing the simple life. And if I text? I asked. Then we see where this goes, she said. She stood up. I followed. We walked to the door together. My legs felt heavy and light at the same time. At the door, she turned to me. Her hand rested on the frame. Thank you for coming tonight, she said. You did not have to. I wanted to, I said. For a second, it felt like she might close the space between us. She did not. She just looked at me like she was trying to memorize my face. Good night, Ryan, she said softly. Good night, Tessa. I stepped outside into the cool night air. The porch light glowed behind me. I did not sleep much. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my phone beside me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her sitting on that couch, hands twisted together, voice shaking when she said she wanted to feel alive. I thought about Eric, about his trust, about what he would think if he ever knew. Then I thought about how I felt when I was with her. Safe, seen, awake. By morning my stomach was in knots. At 10:12 a.m., hands shaking, I finally picked up my phone. Hey, I typed. You free for coffee today? I stared at the words, then hit send before I could talk myself out of it. The second it sent, I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Her reply came less than 30 seconds later. There is a bakery near campus, she wrote. 11. I will be there. My heart kicked hard. I grabbed a clean shirt, pulled on jeans, and tried to make my hair behave. The walk to the bakery felt both too fast and too slow. It was a place I had passed 100 times. Small, with big windows and striped awnings. The smell of coffee and fresh bread rolled out onto the sidewalk. Tessa was already there. She sat at a small table outside, sunglasses pushed into her hair, an espresso cup in front of her. A book lay open on the table, but she was not reading it. She was watching the street. When she saw me, a slow, careful smile spread across her face. You came, she said, her voice warm and low. Yeah, I said. My throat felt tight. I could not ignore that invite. She laughed softly, and the sound eased something in my chest. I was not sure you would show, she admitted. After last night, I thought I might have scared you away. You did, I said. A little. Her smile faded into something softer. And yet you are here, she said. Yeah, I said again. I am. I sat across from her. The table between us felt small. The world around us blurred into background noise. We started with simple things. She asked about my job search. I told her about the firms I had applied to. I asked about her work. She told me about the articles she was writing and how strange it was to build a life again. Under every word there was something else, something waiting. Our knees brushed under the table, and neither of us moved away. Her hand rested close to mine. I could feel the warmth of her skin without touching it. Finally, she set her cup down and leaned forward. Ryan, she said quietly, I need to be honest with you. Okay, I said. My pulse jumped. I am not the easy choice, she said. I am 42. I have a son your age. I have history. I have baggage. If you want something simple and light, you should walk away now. I shook my head. I do not want simple, I said. I want real. Her eyes softened at the word. Then hear this too, she said. I am tired of pretending I am only Eric's mom. Or the woman who smiles and says she is fine. I want to feel something real again. I want to be seen. Not as a project. Not as a broken person. As a woman who still has a life to live. I swallowed hard. I see you, I said. Not as a mom. As you. She held my gaze for a long moment. Then her voice dropped even lower. Not just as a woman, she said. As the woman you are afraid to tell anyone about. Her words hit like a spark in my chest. Eric's face flashed in my mind. His laugh. His trust. But my heart felt steady. I do not know exactly what this is yet, I said. But I know I do not want to look away from it. A small, real smile pulled at her lips. Good, she said softly. Because I do not either. We talked for another hour. About music, books, old memories. None of it was that big, but every answer felt like we were building something, brick by brick. When we finally stood to leave, the sun was high. The air felt warmer. The world looked sharper. "This stays between us," she said as we walked toward her car. "Not because I am ashamed, because I know how fragile this is. Just us," I said. "For now." She nodded. Then she did something small that sent a rush through me. She reached out and let her fingers slide against mine. Just for a second. Just long enough to send a shiver up my arm. Then she stepped back, opened her car door, and left me on the sidewalk with my heart pounding and one clear thought in my head. Whatever this was, it had started. And there was no going back. The weeks after the bakery felt like living two lives at once. On the surface, nothing had changed. I was a new graduate sending out resumes, checking email, pretending I had some kind of plan. I met Eric for wings at the bar by campus. We played video games in his half-packed apartment while he talked about internships and cities and how Ohio was just a step on his way to something bigger. Underneath all of that was the life no one knew about. Tessa and me. It started small. A text asking if I could look at a cabinet door that would not stay closed. A message about a box in the attic she could not lift by herself. A question about a leaky faucet in the bathroom that needed a strong hand. Each time I went over, it felt less like a favor and more like a reason to be near her. Her house was the same two-story place I had known for years, but it did not feel the same. There was almost always something warm on the stove. Soup slow cooking. Bread cooling on a rack. A candle burning on the counter. We would talk while I worked. About my job hunt. About her writing. About the weird quiet after a marriage ends. Sometimes we ended up in the living room with a record playing low. She pulled out old albums and told stories about concerts and road trips from before she was anyone's mom. We did not cross every line at once. Some nights we sat on opposite ends of the couch, but slowly drifted closer. Some nights her hand brushed mine and stayed there. Some nights I left with my heart racing and my mouth dry, wondering how long we could hold back. The guilt was always there, hiding behind every good moment. Eric's pictures were still on the walls. His trophies were still on the shelf. His room still had his posters and old shoes on the floor. Sometimes I would be sitting at Tessa's table, listening to her laugh, feeling her fingers tap my wrist as she made a point, and I would picture him walking in. One night he texted me, "Got it. Internship in New York. I am really going. Drinks tonight." We met at a noisy bar near campus. He was already half a drink in when I got there. His smile looked too big for his face. "This is it, man," he said, clinking his glass against mine. "Real city. Real job. Real life." "That is huge," I said. I meant it. I was proud of him. He talked about tiny apartments, subway lines, new friends he had not even met yet. I nodded and smiled, but there was a tight spot in my chest that would not go away. Then he said it. "Hey, my mom's going to be on her own again," he added, almost offhand. "You know how she is. Strong, but stubborn. Check in on her sometimes if you're still around. Grab dinner with her. Make sure she is not sitting at home, all sad watching bad TV." My fingers tightened on my glass. "Yeah," I said. "Of course." He grinned and slapped my shoulder. "You are the best, man. She trusts you." Later that night, when I left him at the bar, I drove straight to her house. She opened the door before I finished knocking. She wore a soft sweater and jeans, her hair pulled back, a line of flour on her wrist. The smell of garlic and bread drifted from the kitchen. "You made it," she said, stepping aside. "I thought you might bail." "You cooked," I said, trying to smile. "Could not miss that." "Little celebration," she said. "For your interview tomorrow. And for Eric. For his big city life." We sat at her small table with bowls of pasta and a loaf of bread between us. For a few minutes we talked about simple things. How nervous I was for the interview. How much Eric talked about New York. How weird it was that everything was changing at once. Then she set her fork down and looked at me. "He called me," she said. "He told me about the internship. He sounded so happy." "Yeah," I said. "He deserves it. He also said," she went on, her eyes searching my face, "that you would be here. That you would check in on me. Take me to dinner. Make sure I am not lonely." I stared at my plate. "What did you say?" I asked. She took a small breath. "I said he was lucky," she answered. "I said you are a good friend and that I trust you." My throat burned. "Do you?" I asked. She was quiet for a beat. "I trust you more than I trust anyone," she said softly. "That is exactly why this scares me." I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. Her fingers tensed, then relaxed under mine. This feels wrong sometimes, I said. Because of him. Because of what people would think. But when I am here with you, it feels like the only thing that makes sense. Her eyes shone, but she did not look away. I hate the phrase starting over, she said. Like everything before did not matter. I do not want to erase my life. I just want to keep living it. But this time I want someone beside me. Not ahead of me pulling, not behind me pushing. Beside me. The words hit me hard. Then let me be there, I said. I do not know how this ends. I do not know what happens if Eric finds out. But I know I care about you. I know this is not just some mistake for me. Her lips trembled as she tried to smile. Do you know what you are asking for? She whispered. Yes, I said. Fear. Complicated nights. Hard choices. Secrets for a while. But also you. She let out a small, shaky laugh. A single tear slipped free and rolled down her cheek. She brushed it away with the back of her hand. Come here, she said. We both stood. The chairs scraped on the floor. We met halfway between the table and the counter. For a second, we just stood there, so close I could see the tiny lines by her eyes and the way her pulse moved at her neck. Her hand came up and rested on my chest. I covered it with mine. This is not a game, she said. If this gets too hard, you have to tell me. Do not disappear. Do not make me doubt everything again. I will not, I said. Promise. I promise. She searched my face one last time, like she was still trying to find a reason to stop. She did not find one. When we finally crossed that last bit of space, there were no fireworks outside or dramatic songs. Just the quiet sound of our breathing and the soft press of her mouth on mine. Her hands slid up to my shoulders like she had been holding herself back for years. It did not feel like breaking a rule. It felt like stepping into an answer we had both been afraid to say out loud. Later we sat on the couch, the TV on some show neither of us watched. She curled against my side, her head on my shoulder, my arm around her. The room was dim, lit by a small lamp. I do not know how we tell him, I said. Or if we ever do. Not now, she said. He needs to build his life. He does not need this on his mind. So we stay quiet, I said. For now, she answered. Quiet does not mean fake. When you are here, I do not want you to feel like a shadow. I traced small circles on her arm with my thumb. What if he hates me one day? I asked. If he finds out. What if he hates you? She was silent for a long time. Then we face it together, she said. If this is just a secret fling, I do not want it. If it is something real, then we deal with the cost together. I looked down at her. Is this real? I asked. She tilted her head back to meet my eyes. What do you think? She asked. I thought about the napkin at the bar. About her voice in the living room when she said she wanted to feel alive. About sitting across from her at the bakery, both of us scared and still choosing this. I think, I said slowly. It started with 4 words on a napkin and turned into the first thing in a long time that actually feels like my own life. Her smile this time was full and warm, no sadness hiding behind it. I can live with that, she said. Days turned into weeks. Weeks slipped into months. Eric moved to New York. He sent photos of busy streets and tall buildings and rooftops at night. He called his mom. Sometimes he called me. We talked about his work, his crazy roommates, how fast the city moved. He never asked what I was doing when his mom's voice faded in the background and mine was the one on the other side of the line. The fear that someone would find out never fully left, but it got quieter. What stayed right in front of me was simpler. Tessa handing me a mug of coffee while I tightened a loose handle on a cabinet. Me making pancakes in her kitchen on a Sunday morning while she sat at the table in an old college sweatshirt, reading and smiling to herself. Her head on my chest as we watched some old movie and argued about which ending made more sense. One clear night months after the graduation party, we sat on her front porch. The air was cool. The sky above us was dark and full. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a worn, folded napkin. The ink was faded from being handled so many times, but the words were still there. Come find me tonight. Tessa saw it and laughed softly. You kept that, she said. Yeah, I said. I did. Do you regret it? She asked. Coming to find me? I looked at her. At the woman who used to just be my best friend's mom. At the woman who now knew every part of me. Not for a second, I said. Do you? She shook her head, her eyes bright. No, she said. I think that little note was the first selfish thing I did for myself in a very long time. I slid the napkin back into my wallet and took her hand. Our fingers laced together easily now. It was still a secret. It was still complicated. There were still questions we did not have answers for. But as we sat there under the Ohio sky, her shoulder against mine, her thumb brushing the back of my hand, one thing was clear in my mind. At his graduation party, his mom slid me a note with 4 simple words. I went to find her that night. Somewhere along the way, she found me too.
If this story stays with your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.